I didn't immediately agree to play that stupid game. I decided to do it since I wanted to make new friends. But I have always had a few of them, and this is not because I'm arrogant at all, but rather because my family was very wealthy. Those who called themselves my friends were only interested in money. I realized that they were friends with me only for the sake of their own material gain. Judy, my school friend, invited me to participate in the game. She explained the rules, which I found quite easy. Your task is to step on a picture of a squid head if you are a striker, and try to push your opponent out of the squid figure if you are a defender. That's it. The rules are pretty simple. We agreed that the loser would fulfill the winner's wish. Frankly, at that point, I didn't know what Judy was up to. Hey guys, I'm Christy, and I lost the squid game. I was given the role of an attacker while she was a defender. My strategy was simple. I was supposed to get to the head as quickly as possible and stamp my foot. I rushed towards Judy, but she managed to intercept me and push me out of the borders. I fell down and landed right on my butt. Guys around started making fun of my clumsiness. Well, it is what it is. I stood up and dusted myself off at that moment. The winner came up to me, Christy. Now you owe me a wish. Okay, tell me what I should do. My friend decided not to say it out loud. She preferred to whisper her wish in my ear. What? I'll never do this in my life. That's my wish. So make another one. Nope. We have an agreement, and you must fulfill it. No, never. Then Dave joined our conversation. We were quite good friends with him. Probably this was because he was also from a wealthy family, and he knew how difficult it is to find people who are interested in you, and not just your money. Christy, rules are rules. You have to fulfill the wish, no matter how violent it might be. Why is it that soldiers in uniforms enforce the rules and severely punish those who break them? I couldn't believe my ears. My friends, in all seriousness, were trying to scare me with some kind of game for children. What the hell? It's just a silly children's game. Yes, it's a game with very strict rules. Last week, I refused to fulfill the wish. So Dave looked around and continued talking with such a serious face as if he was telling about the biggest tragedy in his life. Soldiers started chasing me. They broke into my house. The guy fell silent as if he was afraid that the memories would become reality again. If he told out loud about them, Judy decided to finish the story for him. And they chased him until Dave fulfilled Steve's wish and licked his sneakers. I wince. Ugh, trust me. Dave, Judy came up with something even more disgusting, and I'm not going to do it. Okay, then wait for the guest in the mask. Judy burst with laughter and went away from the area, leaving David to watch her go. I was doing this with a mixture of surprise and anger. I couldn't understand if she said all this, being serious, or she was just angry because of the fact that I refused to do what she wanted, and Dave was totally upset. Dave didn't answer. Sweat stood out on his forehead because of the anxiousness. It was time to go home, as it was already getting dark outside. It was strange, but when I came home from a walk, no one was at home. I came up to the table and found a note from my parents among the mailing envelopes. Mom and Dad told me that they urgently needed to leave for the weekend and that I should behave well. It was so urgent that they couldn't even call me? Something's wrong here. I decided to call them myself. However, the melodic phone beeps made me understand that my parents were out of reach. Not finding anything suspicious in this, I decided to dial them a little while later when the phone signal was restored. I continued to sort through the envelopes that were scattered on the table. I found one of them. Very strange. This was just a white envelope with no information on it. For whom was it? Where was it supposed to be sent? That was weird. When I opened the mysterious envelope, and I froze. Inside, there was a small piece of paper on which 3 figures, a circle, a triangle, and a square were depicted at that moment. A loud knock at the door was heard because of surprise. I jumped on the spot. Who could come here at such a time? I slowly came up to the door, forgetting about my precautions. Without looking through the people, I slowly grabbed the handle and pulled it down. My heart was beating as if it were about to stop. There was no one outside the door. I couldn't have just imagined it. As soon as I walked away from the door, someone knocked on it again. This knocking prank made me really angry. I sharply opened the door and froze, paralyzed by what I saw. In front of me, there was one of the soldiers from the game on his helmet. There was a square. He started to move and began to approach me slowly. I backed away, not knowing what to do. The soldier extended his arms forward as if he wanted to grab me with my back. I felt that I hit something without thinking twice. I grabbed it, began to beat the uninvited guest. The soldier, not expecting such a warm welcome, fell to his knees and began to whine pitifully. "That's enough. It's me, Dave." The soldier began to quickly take off his helmet. It was my friend who turned out to be under the mask. I was beside myself with anger and shock. "Dave, are you an idiot? Why scare me so much?" "I don't know. I thought it would be fun." "Where did you even get this helmet? What's up with you?" "It's a trend. You can buy it anywhere." "That's a stupid prank. You scared me." Dave rubbed his bruised forehead and shrugged, "But I think it's cool." "Are you ready? We're going to go take a walk in the park. Have you forgotten?" "Oh, yeah, that's right. Okay, let's go. Just give me a couple minutes to get ready." I completely forgot that we had agreed to take a walk with him this evening. I put on my jacket, and then Dave and I left the house, trying to forget all the strange things of that day. We were walking in the park, chatting, enjoying nature, and all this, until the moment when Dave began to change the subject again, shifting to our relationship. The walk stopped bringing me pleasure. I felt an unbearable desire to go home. I liked Dave, but he was rushing things. Even now, he closed his eyes, bent down to me, and thrust out his lips, trying to kiss me. I quickly dodged his kiss and started walking faster. "Dave, it's getting late. I think I'll go." "Oh, of course. Let me walk you home." "Thanks, but I would like to walk alone." "Okay. Sorry again." "It's okay." It was time to end this conversation before it got too far. I didn't want to quarrel with my friend and explain for the 101st time that I was not ready to date him yet. I watched Dave walking away, and even from his gait, I understood how anxious he was. I went home along the cold and dark street. At some point, I even regretted that I hadn't allowed Dave to walk me home. I had to move faster in order to quickly get home where it was always light, warm, as well as cozy, and most importantly, safe to calm down. I began to imagine how I would make strong, hot tea when I got home. "Christy?" A voice behind my back made me stop suddenly and turn around. In the middle of a street, dimly lit by a dim lantern, there stood a soldier in a pink uniform, and it was easy to see. A triangle on his helmet. A rifle was hanging on his shoulder. I frowned. Apparently, Dave thinks that the joke repeated twice is twice as funny. "Dave, stop fooling around." The soldier moved towards me and grabbed the handle of his weapon. "Dave!" That's when I got really scared. I suddenly darted off and ran down the street as quickly as ever before. I was running down the street and screaming as loudly as I could, but on the street there was no one else except the stranger and I. I ran across the whole block and turned around. He was still chasing me. I began to choke. There was not enough air and I was running out of energy. I can run across a couple more blocks, and what's next? I stopped, and while looking back, I realized that there was no one chasing me anymore. What was that? After catching my breath a little, I started running again and did not stop until I got home. As if being stung, I rushed in and locked the door tight. Through the window in the living room, I looked outside. There was not a soul there. I decided to go upstairs to the bedroom and lock myself there. After what I experienced that day, falling asleep was out of the question. I was laying and looking at the ceiling. My head was full of thoughts. What if I just imagined everything? Maybe it's all because of stress or lack of sleep. Even stranger things can appear in one's mind. Well, not too many coincidences have occurred in one day. There's only one way to understand if I am crazy, and that is to search for information about these soldiers on the internet. I decided that if the search didn't give any results that could be credible enough, then everything I saw today was nothing more than a figment of my imagination. Unfortunately, the very first attempt confirmed my worst fears. Soldiers do exist, and they have been appearing in different parts of the city for a long time. They were lasting in the area where Dave lives. Apparently, this is true. They make sure that no one breaks the stupid rules of a children's game. This means that for them to leave me alone, I have to fulfill Judy's wish. I was staring at the monitor for a long time, seeing nothing. Well, there was no other way out. The next day, as usual, I went to school. During one of the breaks, I went to the restroom, and as soon as I locked the stall door behind me, I heard the voice of Judy entering the ladies' room. You should have seen her face yesterday. The girl was not alone. One of her friends was with her. I couldn't recognize who it was by her voice. While hiding, I was listening attentively to their conversation and tried not to miss a single word. Who is Christy? Yeah, that stupid girl thought she was being chased by a real soldier. You're kidding me. What if she still won't fulfill your wish? In this case, I've prepared another surprise for her. Judy and her friend laughed out loud and soon left the restroom. That's why I managed to leave my hideout. I can't believe Judy pranked me, so it was she who made me run along the streets the whole night. I was so angry. I could hardly restrain the desire to find a friend at school and punch her as hard as I could. But instead, I decided to catch her red-handed and take a couple of photos in a soldier's uniform. Should I post them on her social media? It will be really fun. I came home late again. It got dark outside long ago, so Dave invited me to a cafe once more on the way home. I was coming up with a plan for taking revenge on Judy and hardly noticed that there was a dim light in the windows. I stopped in disbelief. Indeed, dim light rushed from one corner of the room to another. This was a flashlight. I got closer to the window and carefully peered inside. 3 soldiers wearing pink uniforms were looking for something in my living room. One of them had a helmet with a square. The other one had a circle drawn on his helmet, while the third one had a triangle. I think I recognized the third one. It was definitely Judy. It looked like they were preparing the prank which she had spoken about when I accidentally overheard their talk. But this breaking into someone's house without asking for permission, as well as rummaging through personal belongings, was too much, even for her. Having completely lost my composure, I burst into the house and quickly turned on the light. The soldiers froze, rooted to the spot, and Judy and her friends definitely didn't expect to see me. I started shouting at them, making it clear that it wasn't easy to scare me. I know it's you, Judy. Get out of here, or I'll call the police. But Judy and her friends, for some reason, were not afraid of my threats at all. Instead, Square grabbed my arm. He squeezed it so hard that tears started flowing from my eyes. How did this girl end up here? You said the house was empty. I said there were no adults in the house. I knew nothing about the girl. Calm down. Just tie her up and put a gag in her mouth. Triangle is right. We need to clean out the house before anyone makes a fuss. The Square made me sit down in a chair. He put his finger to his lips, telling me that I should keep quiet. Then I realized that this was not a prank, and I was in real danger. I decided not to be heroic and to follow all of the instructions of these weird men with geometric shapes on their heads. The Square tied me to a chair with a rope and gagged my mouth so I wouldn't make noise. I tried to move, but the knots were tightened very well. I just had to watch the soldiers ransack my house. At first, I thought they were looking for something, but no, they were putting whatever they thought was valuable into their bags. Then I remembered the details of the article from the internet that I was reading. It said that a gang disguised as soldiers was cleaning out people's houses. By the way, the last time they robbed Dave's house, which meant he was licking Steve's sneakers in vain. In fact, I didn't find it funny at all and had to do something. None of these players were armed, and this was definitely good news for me. I tried to reach the tabletop with my foot while no one was watching on the backside, almost at the very edge of the tabletop. My dad recently installed an alarm button. If you press it, all the cops in the area will arrive. I stretched my leg and almost reached the button, but Circle paid attention to me. What are you doing here? He started suspecting something and was already walking towards me at that moment. I had nothing else to lose with my feet. I pushed the chair closer to the table. Circle was already running up to me. Hey, you wait a second. Before Circle pushes me, I found the button by groping and pressed it. I fell down on the floor along with the chair. One of the criminals looked under the table. I bet he turned gray under his helmet. When he saw the button, the girl called the cops. Let's get out of here. Triangle grabbed the bags with my stolen belongings, and they all simultaneously ran towards the door. Perhaps the car was waiting for them somewhere nearby, but they did not manage to get far. The police intercepted them on the street. Actually, I did not see this myself, since I was still lying on the floor tied to a chair. However, I heard the screeching noises of wheels and how the officer ordered the criminals to immediately lie down on the floor through a loudspeaker. After a couple of seconds, I heard footsteps. It was one of the officers. He cut the rope and helped me stand up. The policeman asked if everything was all right with me and took me to the car where his colleagues were already waiting for us. Was it you who called us? Yes, with the help of an alarm button. You're brave. Yeah. We've been hunting this gang for months now. Fancy that, Johnson. We owe this girl. She's great. Yes, you will wake up famous tomorrow. And so what happened when I came to school? Everybody already knew about my feat. All the newspapers and channels were talking only about me and my adventure all day long. All the guys at school were telling me that I was really brave. Judy finally stopped treating me badly, became friendlier, and even confessed that night on the street, it was she who scared me half to death. By the way, I managed to finally get through to my parents. It turned out that all this time, they were on an urgent business trip and there was no cell coverage at all. In other words, for me, the Squid Game has remained an ordinary children's game. Nothing special. Wow, I didn't even know if it's worth telling my parents about my adventures. Maybe I shouldn't bother them. Yet again, share your thoughts on it, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel.